Warcraft 3. Picture this. You're like 9 years old and you walk into Best Buy, and there they are staring at you. Grom Hellscream and Arthas Menethil, and the words instantly leave your mouth. Mom, please. You take those two babies home, put it in the computer, and even during the installer it's the coolest thing ever. And then you actually play it and it's just the best. I love Warcraft 3. It is my favorite game. Many people say it is the best RTS game. I disagree. That title goes to StarCraft 2 in my opinion. But I still love Warcraft 3 more, since to me it was always more than just an RTS. And that was because the heroes were so emphasized. The hero element made it stand out from all other RTS games, even Warcraft 1 and 2. The heroes give the game a CRPG element to it, especially in the campaign, and that is exactly almost exclusively what I always played. The only RTS game where I ever got into the multiplayer was StarCraft 2. Otherwise, it has always just been the campaigns, and Warcraft 3's campaign is my favorite. Gameplay. I've already revealed the secret ingredient to why the game is so good for me, but let's go point by point a bit. What's so good about the gameplay? When I was younger, I just really liked grabbing a 12 stack of units and throwing it at the enemy and then watching them fight and slowly destroy the enemy. I still do, and that is the good visual and audio work. It still looks and sounds good today, even the old models, and that's the great art style. Style will win over realism any day of the week. You control individual units, and generally I prefer that. You just feel more in control and it gives the game more depth and heightens the skill expression through microing the individual units. I'm not great at that part, but it sure does look awesome when Grubby does it. The pathfinding for the units is pretty good, especially for single units. They almost always move exactly where you want them to go and how you want them to go. But moving a large group of units is gonna be one of your biggest challenges, as they constantly bump into each other and get in each other's way. Sometimes creating traffic jams that make the group travel in single file. Traveling in groups typically involves moving shorter distances at a time to give the group time to catch up to each other, and it's rare, but they do take some weird paths occasionally. This is just part of the micro challenge in the game, a feature, not a bug. It's one of the many little particularities that you have to learn and account for. If you've played Dota 2, then you know these particularities, or at least some of them, since Warcraft 3 is Dota 2's granddad. Like the turn rate, it takes time to turn around. If you're running away, you can't really kite and attack since the melee unit will catch up. And then there's the reasons why I say StarCraft 2 is the best RTS game and not Warcraft 3. The 12 unit selection cap. Control groups not being visible in the UI and units being greedy about the space they take. This is just personal preference, but it's something I really appreciate and find much more comfortable. Being able to select all units and making them go in, or making many small squads and keeping track of them easily. And they have an easy time traveling in groups since they can actually cluster together tightly. Warcraft 3 doesn't encourage making a big army and making it go in. It's more about an elite squad built around the hero. That's more manageable with the pathfinding, the space each unit takes, and the micro. I will say though that I appreciate in this game that you can select individual units within the selection group. You use that to access individual unit spells, and I don't know how you would do that on the fly without this feature. The economy encourages small armies, because if your supply goes too high, then you have to start paying taxes on your gold. Ugh, gross. Obviously, tax evasion is the minigame I most actively engage in when I play this game. Making sure my supply stays under 50 so I pay no tax. As I've grown older, I've appreciated more and more how these particularities make the game really skill-based, and how much there is to think about. Yet here I am selecting a 12 stack and just attack moving into the enemy base. And that works for me, baby. I generally get a decent result from that. The AI targeting is pretty good, but microing it myself always gives a better outcome. A really deep game that can also be enjoyed stupidly. Truly a masterpiece. The small elite squads built around the hero is why I love this game. Because that hero right there, that's your guy. Even better, that's you. It's your RPG character. The guy you level up and upgrade. It's that guy you get immersed in. That connects you to the army or the warband. Or you just like playing as them because they've got some sick spells and they look cool. I always focus hard on the heroes whenever I play this game. Playing it more like a CRPG where you can buy units. Like when I was younger, this was my human build order in the campaign. Arthas, 6 footmen and 5 gunners. 4 undead, Arthas and 11 ghouls. Now I've evolved a bit and go as Arthas with 4 footmen, 2 gunners, 2 priests, maybe 2 knights and a mortar and some extra to reach 12. Maybe more or less units or different units depending on my current status in the tax evasion mechanic. The actual fights have a lot going on. First you'd wanna line them up in a proper formation and turn the right direction before they go in. So your high health units will protect your weaker units, for example. And then each individual unit can have an individual target. But you'd want to focus down one guy, but your melee units can't all get to that one guy. So they have to be spread out. And oh, your ranged units are blocking each other. So 2 of them aren't able to attack, you gotta bring them closer. Oh, one of your melee units is low, pull him out to save him. Oh no, he's blocked by your other units, so now he's gonna die anyway and you lost all the potential damage he could have done before he died, idiot. And your hero spells are off cooldown, why haven't you cast them yet? And why aren't you using your unit's abilities? This is the kind of stuff you'd think about in a combat scenario here. Each unit's individual move speed, damage, abilities, cooldowns, health and mana regen, and the space it takes on the map. It might look kinda slow and chill, but the game is really deep and engaging. A high skill ceiling, where you have these high reflex engagements where 50 things happen at once and you make 10 micro plays in a second. And have this grand strategy that you're going for. Like, oh, the Night Elf is going for the Killiton maneuver, so I'ma hit him with a Slim Shady Pitfall. It's really cool and why I enjoy watching that. But I've always found the game extremely enjoyable at the skill floor. I'm quite happy there when I play the game. Playing it as an RPG with extra steps. Focusing on getting the most out of my hero and supporting the hero. It's just cool having that guy who's stronger than everyone else around him, and he leads the squad into battle and crushes all opposition until you face another enemy hero. And then you have that awesome hero versus hero fight, especially when they're both high level and throw ultimate abilities at each other, and it's just an intense, cool fight. Then you have neutral creeps. I mean, sure, there's a war going on, but someone has to cull the Murloc population and get their money and mana potions. Then that thought leads this RTS RPG into being a dungeon crawler, because playing the heroes exclusively feels so good in this game that dungeon crawling is entertaining for many hours. It feels so good that the community built many game modes around exclusively playing a single hero, and one of those spawned a genre that became the world's biggest esport. That's how good playing the heroes are here, and that goodly feeling gets passed to every single unit in the game. There's a ruggedness to the way characters move, but that ruggedness elevates the game to a higher skill ceiling, and while I prefer the smoothness of StarCraft 2 for a competitive RTS, I still love the rough charm of Warcraft 3. That roughness is what makes Warcraft 3 so good and unique. It creates more room for you to get better at the game, makes the climb to the skill ceiling longer and less linear. Okay, last thing about the heroes is the items. It's another way to customize and upgrade your hero, and it's the occasional happy surprise in a neutral camp. And of course it became one of the main mechanics in those custom hero modes. Item builds were the way you got the edge over the opponent. Except in Hero Line Wars and the StarCraft 2 one. There were like 3 to 5 heroes there where if you picked them, you just win. But items can really change up your hero, like Mask of Death Lifesteal. Put that on a Demon Hunter and he's unkillable. But most of them are just small benefits like extra armor or mana. Items are great, it's more depth but not too complicated. Another great branch on the skill ceiling climb. The main complaint about the heroes is the hotkeys. Instead of just QWER for the abilities, they just drew what the hotkeys were out of a hat and put them there, in random places on the keyboard. Buildings. Use a worker unit and place them. It works. Not a lot to say about that except it's the main source of tedium for RTS games. Just waiting for buildings to get built. But if that's happening to you, then that's your first clue that you're doing something wrong and are bad at RTS games. You're supposed to be doing a lot of stuff at once, and building structures is something you should almost be doing in the background. It's not a task you focus on. With that out of the way, I feel that the time it takes to make structures is appropriate. That's how I would describe it. The more value it has, the longer it takes. That seems right, and the speed at which you get resources is good. It's not too slow and not too fast. But I might feel like this about it because I'm so used to the game's economy. Buildings overall just feel right. The way you progress up the building tech tree, recruiting units, the static defenses, it just works good. But I've never seen anyone fuck up this part of an RTS. If anyone knows an example of that, then please let me know. Buildings are the best way to see the race asymmetry in this game, because humans are the only race that can have multiple workers build a building to build it faster. They have that distinct advantage that no other race has. Then the undead can just summon buildings in, they don't need an active worker to build. The Night Elf buildings can walk around and they don't chop trees down for wood. The Orc buildings punch you back. And they have pillage, which means they get paid for beating up buildings. But this is just a small taste of the difference. All 4 races have completely different playstyles and all of them good and enjoyable. So picking your favorite race comes down to the rule of cool. Unfortunately, all of the races pass the rule of cool test. So I personally default to human, because I am a human, and the paladin is cool and fun to play. That Death Knight is really cool though. So is the Blade Master. And the Demon Hunter. Guess I'll just play them on rotation. For the campaign, the missions are great, with good diverse objectives that don't get stale. At least most of them. It starts to be an issue in the Frozen Throne campaign that a lot of them end up taking a long time, like pretty much anything in Dalaran in the Blood Elf campaign. And then there's the difficulty spike in the Undead campaign in the final mission, and that's when I say, fuck it, who's your daddy? Because it does reach close to tedium. You could just play an easier difficulty, but everything up to that point had been fine, and also at that point you've been playing for 50 hours. So you just wanna finish it and see those glorious final scenes and get to the founding of Durotar for a chill victory lap. Also, any mission where you have to defend an area for 30 minutes is the worst mission in that campaign. The least fun mission you could give me. Speaking of who's your daddy, I spent a lot of hours as a kid with a single hero in God mode, destroying 7 other armies in a skirmish living out a power fantasy. It was just satisfying seeing all the other units die and the buildings get destroyed. Great animations and sounds for that. In terms of gameplay, Warcraft is awesome, by the actual definition. I am in awe of it. The depth of the mechanics and how good it feels to play and look at. At the highest level, which is a massive test of reflexes and strategizing, or at the lowest level, playing it slowly and dumbly, with few units or even just one unit. Both are highly enjoyable. That's why I love the game, and why the game is timeless. Story. Typically I do not spend a long time talking about the story in reviews and don't go in too deep, and I will keep it that way here, while also gushing about it a little bit. First things first, this is the main part that has not aged well. The story presentation, specifically in-engine cutscenes. The dialogue and the voice acting is great, but you're just looking at in-game models that move their mouth in a pretty janky way. It works well enough at presenting what is going on to you, but not very visually stimulating. Which is weird to say about watching essentially the gameplay in a cutscene after I just talked about how good the gameplay looks. And that's the difference between playing and watching. The combat part of the cutscenes is fine, but I'd rather play it. It's just the visual part of the dialogue is pretty weak. A lot of why I feel this way is down to what I'm comparing it to in my head. And those are the really great cinematic cutscenes. Just gorgeous. Chef's kiss. And the cutscenes in StarCraft 2. Those had actual facial and body expressions, which are missing in the in-game cutscenes here. And the remaster didn't really fix that. If I'm being brutally honest, it is a little bit of the same vibe as a kid playing with toy soldiers. But they do squeeze the most out of it that they could. They did make some nice looking scenes. So that's the weak part, but the cinematic cutscenes make up for it a little. But what really makes up for it is the writing and the fantasy world that they built. The fall of Arthas, Thrall redeeming his people, the corruption of Sylvanas, and the struggle of the Blood Elves. These stories hooked me into the world of Warcraft permanently. Modern Blizzard is trying to ruin Warcraft for me, but I can just ignore that the new stuff exists. For the writing, for me it was believable, nothing felt forced. Like in the Fall of Arthas, the purging of Stratholme is a reasonable action considering everything he had seen up to that point. But when it comes to burning the boats so that the men can't leave Northrend and abandon the mission like they have been ordered to, and then betraying the mercenaries who helped you burn the boats, I can see why he would do that even if it is completely wrong. A classic dick move. The characters and their actions are believable. The reasons why everything is happening make sense. have been thought out, and it's entertaining to play it as it unfolds, and it leads to interesting and fun missions. It's just a great narrative to go through, for all of the campaigns, but I've always felt the Night Elf ones were the weakest. Mainly because I don't like Maiev and Tyrande. They are just hateful bitches. And Malfurion is... I can't think of anything to say about him. He's there, he's okay, I guess. But then they introduce Illidan, and he's interesting, but you only play him in one mission in the Night Elf campaign. That's also part of why I like the Blood Elf campaign so much. They actually let Illidan shine there. And I think that's a big part about why everyone loves Illidan so much. Because he was the only Night Elf character that was actually interesting. That you actually wanted to spend more time with. Humans had Arthas, Jaina and Uther. Orcs had Thrall, Grom, Cairn and Rexxar. Undead had Arthas, Sylvanas and Kel'Thuzad. All these great characters for those races, and then the Night Elves just either lack personality or they're just angry and had the same vibe as when you pissed off the teacher in elementary school. Except Illidan. He actually had emotions and an interesting story you wanted to know more about. Great writing and great characters that created an awesome world you wanted to explore, and they did a lot of world building in this game. Starting with the orcs leaving to a new continent, then human politics in Lordaeron, then orc demon magic, then a plague that turns humans into zombies, then an order of wizards, then a demon vampire, then a cursed blade that turns you bad. Tree people, fish people, furries that sleep in caves, portals to other planets and a lot more. It just created this magical world you wanted to know more about and made you angry that you live in this boring ass world of ours. The world of Warcraft is a world of war, adventure and heroes that are larger than life. It is the best character, and sometimes the bad guy wins, and that makes it feel more real. Like canonically, the orcs win the first war, and Arthas destroyed Lordaeron, and in the founding of Durotar, that's just a bad situation. Admiral Proudmoore is right to want to exterminate the orcs after what they did to the human kingdoms, and also because they're ugly and green. And Thrall and his orcs are right to fight for their own land and right to live. Yeah, there are bad guys who are just bad here, but there are also situations where both sides are kinda right. And that makes me a whole lot more invested in the world. That puts me at the edge of my seat. But also beating the bad guy always feels good. And we got that blue alien giant. We nuked him with a tree. Arthas didn't get defeated though. He took an ice nap. That was also cool, because everything in Northrend in the Undead campaign is essentially the bad guys versus the bad guys, and that was awesome. So many interesting factions that fight each other for different reasons, creating cool heroes, power dynamics, constant awesome battles and interesting politics, and twists. But now in modern World of Warcraft it's just kinda lame. Because it's essentially just good guys and bad guys. Sure, there are a lot of characters and some are good, but the whole many factions fighting against each other has been lost in favor of the Alliance and Horde versus the villain of the week. It's just lame. MMOs are the death of story. They took this cool, kinda dark but hopeful magical world full of struggle and turned it into the Powerpuff Girls. It doesn't really feel like Warcraft anymore, it's a skin suit. I look up World of Warcraft cringe cinematic, and I don't even get the one I'm looking for. It's the one where the dragons get together against whoever the villain was and talk to him about friendship or something. I saw that, and for me, that was the moment World of Warcraft was just completely dead. Then the only thing I've seen of World of Warcraft since then was an even worse cutscene. We know kill because kill be bad, murder. It's just depressing that we went from death itself coming for the high home of the elves to this baby playground story. Stop talking about fucking friendship. Where's the damn war in this world of Warcraft? I just want the company to completely collapse at this point. It's a corpse infested by cockroaches, and those cockroaches write terrible cutscenes. In my head, only Warcraft 1, 2 and 3 are canon. Everything else is fan fiction. That keeps my depression at bay. Warcraft 3's story and the world it built was so good that it sustained the most successful MMO of all time. It's in the top 5 best stories in games to me. Great writing, voice acting, memorable moments, visuals weak at times, but there are also some great visuals. A story and world so great that its defilement drives a full-grown man, me, into a depression and deep sadness. Conclusion. Warcraft 3 is my favorite game. I know this because I can't think of a game that I would comfortably rank higher than Warcraft 3. Yes, it's really old and a bit clunky, but made with a true passion and dedication to the craft. And that results in a masterpiece. It's like an old Honda. Sure, the new cars are shiny, but they have all these new features that sound good, but actually they are really annoying. Like, they keep beeping at me every time I go slightly over the speeding limit. And setting the seats is too complicated. The old Honda just shuts up and gives you a good drive with a comfortable seat, a powerful engine, and it still looks cool. Old design was just better. Every new car looks like it was designed for a 45-year-old woman with short hair. And every new game is designed for a 30-year-old woman with short hair. Let's get back on track. Warcraft 3 gameplay-wise is clunky, but that's what makes it good. It's a huge part of its mechanical depth alongside all the hero and unit spells, and hell, just the units themselves. There's a lot of units here that gives a lot of variety, a lot of options, so no 2 playthroughs of the campaign will be the same. And no 2 multiplayer matches will be the same. The gameplay being good is one thing, but the game is also great at getting you immersed into this war fantasy adventure. With the writing. I didn't mention it before, but those side quests are also a great way they keep you engaged with both the campaign and the story, and gives you a little more info about the world. Every time I play this game, I just feel like I'm on an epic adventure and part of a great battle for the fate of the world. And you can't beat the satisfaction of crushing your enemy and destroying all of his buildings. In regards to the remaster, yeah, it made the models look sleek and new, and overall I think they did a good job. I mean, the game works easily and well on modern systems. It just made the models look more realistic and kept to the old style of it in a good way. And yeah, they promised to rework the campaign and make everything new and great, and they didn't do that. And it took them years to put custom games and custom campaigns into the game again. That's Blizzard now. Even when they're served an easy win, they will still fuck it up. One thing for me is I don't know if it's the game that does this now by default or whether it's an old setting I put on that hasn't been reset, but I'm able to zoom out way more than I was able to when I played it when I was younger, and oh boy do I love that zoom out, it's much more comfortable to play with. A massive part of the success of the game was the custom games and the custom campaigns, where for a lot of people that was all they played in Warcraft 3, just the custom games. Probably a lot of them were only playing Dota. I was more of a campaign guy, and I was younger and hadn't figured out the internet that much yet. It was a scarier place when I was younger. So when I got older, there was less of a need to go into the custom games since I had StarCraft 2. But now I did go for a custom campaign. The Chronicles of the Second War, it is insanely good. But cutscenes are a little too long and the voiceover needs work. And they need to look up the pronunciation of a few words. But it's truly fantastic work that's on par with Blizzard themselves. I didn't get into the custom games in Warcraft 3, but I did end up playing them in StarCraft 2, like Hero Siege, Legion TD, called Squadron TD in StarCraft 2, and Hero Line Wars. So many great game modes, and most of them started in Warcraft 3, like Dota. I spent most of my teenage years playing League of Legends, a game built off the back of a game mode in Warcraft 3. The game editor that came with Warcraft 3 is a masterpiece in its own right. This is one of the most important games in gaming history. It is that good. It is a masterpiece. It's kind of a clunky masterpiece, but a masterpiece. The music in this game also just puts me at peace. I absolutely recommend the game. I think it's a game everyone should play at least once, especially if you like RTS games or MOBAs. And I give the game a Mask of Death out of a Crown of Kings. I've found that the games I've loved since I was a kid and played 1,000 times are always the toughest to review, since I always feel like I'm missing something and I'm not doing enough to explain why I love it so much. But I think I highlighted all the important parts, but if I missed something, then that's what the comments are for. Also, the danger of nostalgia goggles and being too used to the game, so you don't even see the stuff that's wrong anymore. Oh yeah, I used the mountain giant icon on YouTube because during one of my playthroughs I noticed how funny it looked, had a chuckle and stared at it for a while. I still can't quite pinpoint what that expression is supposed to be. He's smiling, yes, and it's kind of a goofy smile, but also threatening. And that's kind of the vibe I'm going for on this channel. Next one is StarCraft. Like and subscribe, call me Uncle Brian, and have an awesome day.